talking Baba Yaga, Terror of the Dark Forest. That's its English translation of the title, at least. This is actually a Russian film. Has two directors whose names I'm not going to try and pronounce. However, one of them has actually done quite a long history of horror movies, some of which we've reviewed. Queen of Spades, Dark Rites, this guy did. The Mermaid, Lake of the Dead. We've also reviewed here the Bride, I think it was. So quite a long list of kind of very moody gothic horror films. So here we have Legend of Baba Yaga. No, this is not a John Wick movie. Before you go any further, this is obviously based off the Slavic legend where there's this kind of demonic witch character that steals away children, and that's ultimately what happens within this film. The movie almost plays like a Russian equivalent of It, where we have a group of kids have to band together to try and face a demonic entity who is stealing and targeting children. Now, the movie focuses on this kid called Egor, who is a somewhat of a quiet lad. He's got his parents are his mother has been killed, and his father is remarried to this other woman, and they've now got a young baby, and he kind of has a bit of a crush on the girl next door, who is this quiet girl who has a very kind of overbearing mother. And we've also got the kind of the school bully and his two friends, and he's got some trouble at home as well. And ultimately these guys kind of must put their differences aside and team up to try and ultimately fight back against Baba Yaga. And what will happen, you have to watch the movie to find out. So let's talk about what works. Okay, I think the director here, as I've mentioned, has a long history of horror films. So he knows how to film a good scare. And that is certainly true of this movie for the most part. I would say the first half of this movie has some pretty good scares in it. One scene in particular I thought was very strong is where we have Egor, who is our main kid, going in to check on his baby sister, and you can see a figure in the nanny cam, and when he goes in there, he doesn't see anything, but he checks back and he can still see the figure on the nanny cam, and he's sort of going forward, looking through the nanny cam at the figure. I thought it was a good scene, very well done. And the movie does have some interesting ideas into this kind of like this scary kind of like this creature that has these kind of like minions that kind of do her bidding and stuff like that as well. And the idea of this kind of like this witch almost made out of yarn towards the end of the movie. CGI's not great, we'll talk about that, but the design at least and the idea behind it was, I think, was very kind of well realised and almost has this kind of like a parallel dimension kind of thing going on as well. I think the mythology was pretty strong. And I quite liked our young kind of lead actor, the guy who plays Egor. Again, I'm not going to try and pronounce names here. I thought he did, he comes across as, he's very well cast because he looks like very sweet and innocent. So he comes across as kind of like the nice kind of quiet kid, and the bully kind of looks, he kind of looks a little bit more of like a street urchin type. So I thought the kind of well cast here, certainly in regards to the kind of the child actors. And the movie is quite well paced. However, I've got to say, I think this is maybe one of the weaker films I've seen from this director in regards to story elements. Because this movie really it has no subtlety in it. For example, the family, this Egor, his father, his new wife and their little baby, they hire this kind of nanny, and this nanny is just like, okay, we know something's up with her because it's way acting too kind of like evil, if that makes sense. It's just like, come on, no one's going to kind of like not bat an eyelid to it and things like this. It's just too on the nose. Some of the dialogue here, and I have to say some of the acting as well, is subpar. Now, I find it somewhat difficult to kind of judge foreign films in regards to kind of like acting, because you don't quite know if the translation is necessarily correct. But from what I can tell, it's not necessarily bad acting, but some of the kind of, I don't know, it just seems to be a little bit on the nose, a little bit hammy at times. People are kind of overacting and kind of like, it's time to look at the camera and look really menacing and things like this. And it just like seems to be, there's no subtlety involved in this movie, as I've kind of mentioned. The movie is, I think, it just sometimes goes a little bit silly at times. I've already mentioned the scene that I really enjoyed, where this kind of Egor is going and having a look through this kind of nanny cam. However, at the last minute, he kind of takes his eye off the camera and looks away. I think, come on, if you were near enough right in front of where this figure is supposed to be, your eyes would be transfixed. There's no reason why you would look away, so they basically can kind of film a jump scare. Again, it's things that are made here to push the plot forward and not have a kind of it kind of takes you out in regards to any type of realism here. I feel the last act of the movie, when they are trying to encroach on the kind of the witch's territory, is a little weak. I think the CGI of the actual witch itself is quite poor. It's to quite a poor standard. As I've mentioned, I like the idea behind the witch and kind of the way that they have created this kind of like this strange looking creature. But the kind of the rendering, the actual technical side of it is not a good standard. And I don't know if this kind of like this sort of parallel world as well was quite as well realised as it could have been. And you'll see these kind of like minions that the kind of the witch has. Again, I don't know if it was really kind of all that well executed is the best way I would describe it here. There's just things to me that this movie I didn't think was as strong as maybe the director's previous efforts here. Maybe it's because there was two directors on this one. I honestly don't know, but it was okay. The movie is just, you know, it has some good moments in there, and as with most Russian films, they tend to be. It's all very, very serious. There's very little kind of or no lighter moments in there. It's taken very seriously all of the time. Everyone is always serious. No one really smiles and things like that. So it has that kind of oppressive kind of feel to it. And obviously when we see wider angles of the kind of like the blocks where all these people live, it looks like architecture that we don't have obviously here, in the UK or the US and things like that. So it does have that kind of like that Eastern European feel to it, obviously, which is completely true. That's where it was filmed. But it makes it feel somewhat kind of, foreign to us. And again, I think it does work having this kind of oppressive feeling. Overall, though, I have seen better movies come out of Russia, even by this kind of same director, if you ask me. I'll give this one a 5 out of 10. I think it's pretty average, to be honest with you. It has some excellent moments, but it just overall the film isn't much that you haven't seen before. 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.